Somewhere in your company right now, there is a document you will never see. It has a number on it, your number, the maximum your manager is allowed to pay you if you push back hard enough. You've probably never asked for it. Most people never do, and that's not an accident. It's the plan. Companies don't build negotiation training for employees. They build it for managers. Managers are taught exactly what to say when you ask for more money, exactly how long to stay quiet, and exactly which words make you back down. In the next few minutes, I'm going to hand you 5 things from the other side of that table. Not tricks to make you greedy, tricks to make you even. Because right now, the conversation is not fair, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. Let's start with the one that changes everything before you even open your mouth. Number 1, the first number trap. Here's a question. When a recruiter asks, "What's your salary expectation?" Why do they ask it so early, before they've even decided if they like you? It's not small talk, it's a trap, and it works almost every time. The moment you say a number, you've done their job for them. You've told them your ceiling. Even if that number was low, even if you were just being reasonable, you've now made it very hard to ask for more later. Negotiators call this anchoring. Whoever says the first number sets the boundary for the entire conversation, and most people don't realize they're the ones setting it against themselves. Think about a job that pays, let's say, up to $95,000 for the right person. If you say $70,000, you didn't just ask for less. You told them they never have to offer more. Why would they? You already said you'd be happy with less. Here's what companies hope you never notice. The person who avoids saying a number first almost always ends up with a higher offer. Not because they were rude, because they let the company reveal their number first. So what do you actually say when they ask? You don't dodge it awkwardly. You say something like, "I'd love to learn more about the role first, so I can give you a number that actually reflects the responsibility involved." That's it. Calm, professional, and it puts the ball back in their court. And here's the part that surprises most people. Recruiters expect this now. Saying it doesn't make you difficult. It makes you sound like you've done this before, even if it's your first time. But avoiding the first number is only step 1. What happens after they give you a number is where most people lose thousands of dollars without even knowing it. And that's where trick number 2 comes in. Number 2, the silence that costs them money. Picture this. A hiring manager offers you $78,000. You expected $75,000. Your brain lights up. You almost say yes right there on the call. Stop. That reaction is exactly what they're hoping for. Here's something most employees never learn. Almost every first offer has room in it. Not because companies are hiding money out of greed, but because they build in a cushion. They expect a little back and forth. If you accept instantly, you're not just leaving money behind. You're confirming in their eyes that they could have offered even less. So what do the people who negotiate well actually do differently? They pause. They don't fill the silence. Silence feels unbearable in a negotiation. It feels like something is wrong, but it isn't. Silence is just pressure, and it works both ways. Most people are so uncomfortable with quiet that they rush to break it themselves. If you can sit through 5 seconds of silence after hearing a number, you'll notice something strange. Often, the other person starts talking first, and sometimes they improve the offer just to fill the gap. Try this instead of an instant yes. "Thank you, I appreciate that. Let me take a day to look over the full offer." That single sentence does 2 things. It buys you time to think clearly, away from the emotional high of getting an offer, and it quietly tells them this isn't final, without a single word of confrontation. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. Companies are far more afraid of losing a candidate they've already chosen than they are of paying a little more. Once they've picked you, replacing you means restarting the entire search. That fear is bigger than the few $1,000s they're trying to save, which means the leverage you think you don't have. You already have it. You just haven't used it yet. But leverage is worthless if you don't know how big it actually is, and most people are working with far more leverage than they realize. They just don't know how to measure it. That's trick number 3, and it's the one that separates confident negotiators from nervous ones. Number 3, the invisible scorecard. Every company has a budget range for every role. Not one number, a range, somewhere between the lowest they'd offer and the highest they'd approve without extra sign-off. Most employees negotiate blind. They guess, they hope, and hoping is exactly what keeps that range hidden. Here's the shift. Before any conversation, spend 20 minutes finding out what people in your role, your city, and your experience level actually earn. Not a vague average salary number, real ranges from real sources. This isn't about memorizing statistics to recite them like a robot. It's about walking into the room knowing something they hoped you wouldn't check. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you know the real range, you stop negotiating with emotion and start negotiating with facts. Instead of saying, I feel like I deserve more, you say something like, based on what I'm seeing for this role in this market, positions with similar responsibilities are landing between $85,000 and $95,000. Given my background, I'd like to be considered closer to the top of that range. Notice what that sentence does. It's not a demand, it's not emotional, it's simply information, the same kind of information they use internally that you weren't supposed to have. This is the part companies rely on most. Most candidates don't do this homework, so most candidates negotiate purely on gut feeling. And gut feeling is easy to talk down. Facts are not. There's a psychological reason this works so well too. When you bring data instead of demands, the conversation shifts. You're no longer asking for a favor. You're two professionals comparing notes on what's fair. That single shift in tone can be worth thousands of dollars because it changes how they see you, not as someone hoping for more, but as someone who already understands their own value. Now, knowing your number is powerful, but there's something even more powerful than money, something almost nobody negotiates for, and it's often easier to get than a raise. That's trick number 4, and once you see it, you'll wonder why nobody taught it to you sooner. Number 4, the money they'd rather give you in a different form. Here's a secret hiding in plain sight. Salary isn't the only number that matters, and it's often not even the number companies are most flexible on. Why? Because base salary comes from a fixed budget line that gets reviewed by finance, sometimes even by someone above your hiring manager. But things like a signing bonus, extra vacation days, remote work flexibility, or an early performance review often come from a completely different, more flexible pot of money, one your hiring manager can control directly without asking permission from anyone above them. This is why a manager might say, I really can't move on salary, and mean it completely, while still having the power to add a $5,000 signing bonus in the same breath. Most people hear, I can't move on salary, and simply give up. That's the moment you're supposed to stop pushing. But that's exactly the moment the real opportunity opens. Try asking, I understand the salary is fixed for now. Would there be flexibility with a signing bonus or a 6-month review with a raise built in if I hit my goals? You're not fighting the no, you're walking around it. Here's something that will change how you see every future negotiation. A signing bonus doesn't affect the company's ongoing payroll costs the way a salary increase does. It's often a one-time expense, easier to approve and easier to say yes to, which means it's frequently the fastest yes in the entire negotiation, hiding behind a no you were never supposed to question. In a scheduled raise after your first strong review, that costs the company nothing today. It only becomes real if you actually perform, which means it's an easy promise for them to make and a real opportunity for you to lock in writing before you even start. You now know 4 tools that most employees go their entire career without learning. But there is one mistake, one single sentence that quietly cancels out every single trick we just covered, and almost everyone makes it without realizing. Number 5, the sentence that erases everything. Here it is, the sentence, I don't want to seem greedy. It sounds humble, it sounds polite, it feels like the safe thing to say. But that one sentence, spoken out loud or even just believed quietly in your head, undoes everything you just learned. Here's why. Negotiating your salary isn't asking for a favor, it's agreeing on the value of work you haven't even done yet. Companies negotiate contracts, prices, and deals every single day without calling it greedy. It's simply business. The moment you frame your own value as something shameful to ask for, you've handed back every ounce of leverage you built. Think about the manager sitting across from you. They negotiate their own salary. they negotiated the price of their new car. They probably negotiated the deal they're about to offer you down from a higher internal number. Nobody on their side is thinking about greed. They're thinking about numbers, budgets, and outcomes. You're the only one in the room who might be thinking about guilt, and that guilt is worth real money to them. This is the deepest truth in this entire video. Companies don't win negotiations because they're smarter than you. They win because most employees walk in already, halfway convinced they don't deserve to ask. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's simply believing that a fair conversation about your own value is allowed to happen, because it is. Let's bring this together. 1. Don't say the first number. Let them reveal their range before you reveal yours. 2. Don't accept instantly. Silence is pressure, and it works in your favor too. 3. Walk in with real numbers, not guesses, so facts do the talking instead of emotion. 4. When salary won't move, ask about bonuses, reviews, and flexibility. The no is rarely the whole story. And above all, let go of the idea that asking for what you're worth makes you greedy. It doesn't. It makes you prepared. None of this is about tricking anyone or playing games. It's about walking into a conversation that was never balanced to begin with, and finally showing up with the same information the other side has always had. Your next salary conversation might be next month. It might be next year. But when it happens, you won't be guessing anymore. You'll know exactly what to say, exactly when to stay quiet, and exactly what you're worth. And that changes everything. If this helped you see negotiation differently, you know what to do. Like it, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.